We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Marc came across the Marseille, I'm guessing that's how that's said, mCable series. They are HDMI cables that include a small video processing chip on one end. The gaming edition actually seems to genuinely improve the look of many games since it applies anti-aliasing and scaling. They also offer a cinema edition which describes upscaling all content to 4K resolution and applying noise reduction, edge restoration, and detail enhancement.
That's the word they used.
Yeah, whatever. Like
it's edge enhancement.
It didn't have an edge before. You had to restore it. What is it, like an old house? At $120 for 3 feet, $130 for 6 feet, $140 for 9 feet. Are any of these worth considering? No. Can I say no? I would consider the gaming edition one if I had a crappy computer.
I mean, I would consider putting that same money towards a higher end graphics card.
Well, that's what comes to my mind too. I'm like, okay, so just say you're only using the 3 foot one, which is really quite close. That's $120. You telling me you can't get a decent video card for $120 that can do all this stuff for you, where you can actually configure it? Because this thing doesn't seem to be configurable.
They did mention for console gaming where you don't have any choice of the output.
But really? Do you think that's the biggest? Whatever, dude.
Well, I mean, it's a potential thing. I mean,
not the cinema one. I mean, not a chance.
Yeah, the cinema one, no. Because I mean, first of all, if you're watching 4K content to begin with, you don't need the 4K scaling.
That's not going to stop it from doing it, though. All the rest of that stuff, it's going to do all that stuff to it.
Yeah, you don't want the edge enhancement. That's going to be terrible.
And where's this noise coming from? For the noise reduction, it's 4K. It's bit for bit. I mean, whether you watch VHS
and
on
if you're
this
watching 1080p, I mean, again, this is, I don't want anything with edge enhancement, that's for sure. And what can't scale things fairly nicely from 1080p to 4K?
Nothing. All of it does it.
So I don't see any reason to go for the cinema edition. The gaming edition is a maybe for me, because just the anti-aliasing alone, I'm like, that's a maybe.
I don't like anything I can't turn off. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah. Built into the darn cable.
So Marc has a mini DSP being shipped to him and received his calibrated UMIC 1 from Cross Spectrum Labs. So he started playing with Room EQ Wizard a little bit. There are lots of different test tones that Room EQ Wizard can generate and measure with plenty of drop-down menus and settings that he's getting used to. But on the AV receiver side, how should he adjust its settings for taking measurements? For example, if he wants to measure the native response of each of his speakers at all of his seating positions so that he can better understand where they ought to be crossed over into his subwoofers, what should he do? Should he set the speakers to large so that his AV receiver isn't playing a crossover? Should he set it to pure direct so the AV receiver isn't playing any processing of its own to the signal? Well, you should definitely not have it crossed over if you want to hear how it sounds, where you want the crossover to be. So you would at the very least set them to large. Pure direct, you would turn off all processing anyways, but pure direct is a guaranteed method to make sure that it's just sending the signal out pure, which is what you would want to do. Absolutely.
Yeah, in this scenario where you're like, what are my speakers doing before Odyssey is applied, before my crossovers and bass management are applied, before any of the distance, level settings, anything is done to the signal, what are my speakers just doing on their own? Then that's absolutely what you want. You want them set to large or full range, whatever the word is in your AV receiver settings. And yeah, using the direct or the pure direct mode ensures that all processing is turned off. The only other tip I would give you is that some of these test tones are only available as a stereo signal.
Right.
They only give you a left and a right. And you're like, how do I check what my surround speaker is doing or my surround back speaker is doing? Well, in this scenario, you leave your surround speaker physically where it is, but you just wire it to one of the front binding posts. Because all you need is for the test signal to get out of that speaker and for you to measure what that speaker is doing at each of your seats.
Right.
So it doesn't matter which binding post is sending the signal to the speaker. Don't get caught up in it being a channel thing. It's not. It's just get the signal to the speaker, whatever you need to do that, and measure the signal, because that's just the pure signal coming out of that speaker at each of your seats, and that'll give you a good idea visually for what's going on.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.